I'm compiling a list of quotes and sayings to do with roughly under the banner of Musar. So any quotes that you have, nice sayings that can give us a bit of chizuk, give us a bit of encouragement in these troubled times. I'm compiling, I'm going to compile a list and it's going to go out on email. But I need a lot more material. It's sluggish to get going. And if you want to send me the quotes, my email address is rabbikelati@gmail.com. And the second thing I want to mention is that I've just started a daily halacha audio email. So anyone who wants to send me an email, you will get on a list that you will get a daily halacha of 2 minutes, an MP3 file every day on something which is to do with the time of the year. Now, obviously, we're going through Sukkot. Then we're coming up to, after Sukkot, we're going to have the halachot of Hashkamat HaBoker. Each day, about 2 or 3 minutes. It's a small file you get sent, and it's something you can, we say if you learn 2 halachot every day, Muftach lo shehu b'olam haba. So you'll be assured of Olam Haba. So it's a good way to start your day, get an email in the morning, and here are 2 minutes of halachot, set you right on your day. So again, if you want to subscribe to that, or you want to send me some quotes, the email address is rabbikelati, that's one word, @gmail.com. Okay, so we're back at the beginning again. Exciting times ahead. We will warm the winter, Bezrat Hashem, with all these beautiful incidents and stories, wonderful musar we're going to get from the Sefer of Bereishit. So, the previous shurim for Sefer Bereishit, which are all on TorahAnytime.com, are from 3 years ago. There was a shir called the Mobius Strip. And 2 years ago, there's a shir called Reflections. And last year, there was a shir called Primordial Soup, all on the parasha of Bereishit. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a story. And I'm going to finish off with a story as well, but here's my opening story. So there's once a king. And the king had several ministers working for him. And he had one of those ministers was Jewish. And of course, with these stories, it's always the Jewish minister who was the most fond of. And of course, in these stories, another common thing in these king-type stories is that all the other ministers hate the Jew. Okay, it's a common thing. And this story is no different. So, the non-Jewish ministers wanted to discredit the Jewish minister. And they found out that on the king's birthday, the king was going to hand out cigars to all of his ministers, special, beautiful Havana cigars, that were like, I don't know what makes these cigars so special, but they're very, very valuable, very rare. So what happened? The king's birthday was set for Shabbat. Now, the ministers were delighted because what was going to happen? The king was going to give cigars to all the ministers, and the ministers would say, wow, a cigar from the king, and they would smoke, and everyone would smoke together. And of course, what's going to happen? The Jew is going to go, sorry, I can't smoke. And the king will be furious, and then he'll throw out the Jew, or even better, have him killed. So, it happened, the party happened, and all the ministers were there, and the king handed out to each one of his ministers one of these beautiful, very rare cigars. And all the non-Jewish ministers that were taking them, like cutting off the tip and smoking them delicately, saying, Your Majesty, such a wonderful aroma, unbelievable, this cigar is so special, I've never had something. And the king was so happy, and everyone was saying, he gets to the Jew, and he says to the Jew, here, take a cigar. And the Jew said, I can't smoke this now. And the king says, yes, you are. It's my birthday. You've got to smoke it. And the king takes the cigar, puts it in the pocket of the Jew, and says, take it and light it now, like all the other ministers. So now the Jewish minister is in a position. And of course, being a Jew, he's got a Yiddish kop, he's got a Yiddish brain, and he says, I cannot smoke this cigar. So the king said, you better have a good reason why you're not smoking this cigar, otherwise you'll have hell to pay. And you know what happens when I get angry. So the minister says, the reason why I'm not going to smoke this cigar is because how could I ever imagine in my wildest dreams to take something that your majesty gave to little me and smoke it right here, right now, and waste it? I'm going to take this cigar home, I'm going to put it in a glass case and put it on the wall. I will never smoke this cigar. This cigar is so special. It's never going to be smoked, ever. And of course, the king liked that. And as usual in these stories, he rounds up all the other ministers and has them all killed. And he promotes the Jew, and that's the end of the story. So what do we understand from this? Is that there are distinctly two ways of looking at things. You can look at something from the outset and say, look, this is something I need to take advantage of. There's only one way of enjoying, and that is to partake in it. And the other way is no. Sometimes life is not meant to be enjoyed for the moment. Sometimes life is meant to be preserved. And the good things are meant to be withheld. And we're not... and this is very relevant nowadays, where everyone, when you see it, you want it. When you see it, you have to have it. It doesn't necessarily work like that. Things which Hashem gives us in our lives are not meant to be squandered and wasted. And it's the I generation, iPod, iPad, all these everything is for me. Sometimes it's a case of wait. We need to gain an appreciation and realize and bring Hashem into our lives. So, where do I begin? Parashat Bereishit, so much content in this parasha. So I'm going to begin at the beginning. How do you think the Torah starts? The Torah, which is the instruction of life for all of mankind. How do you think it starts? Well, of course we know the first pasuk. Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz. You would think Hashem, who is one, would start the Torah with the letter Aleph, because Hashem is one. Why does he start the Torah with the letter Bet, which is two? It's a very common question, and we've posed this question in the past and given an answer or two. Here's an answer I read just today. Of course, the letter Bet, the numerical value is 2. What does 2 indicate? 2 indicates choice. Aleph, which is 1, there's no choice. But 2 indicates free will. You have 2 paths to go to. And Hashem, who wants us to exercise our free choice, in fact, that's the whole idea of the Torah, and that we have paths to go down. Hashem wants us to choose life. He starts his Torah not with an Aleph, which would seem to be more logical. He starts with a Bet to show us, look, I don't expect you to be robots. I'm giving you a bechira. I'm giving you free will. I'm delineating 2 paths for you. I want you to choose. You may not choose right first time. Maybe you might make a wrong choice. Don't have to be ashamed. Don't have to be sad. You make a wrong choice. But what I do want you to do is choose. I don't want you to lay back and be the ball and get kicked around. I want you to man up and make the choice. And you see there's a thread that goes through the whole of Parashat Bereishit, all to do with choice. Of course, the obvious ones are Adam and Eve. They had the choice, eat from the fruit or don't eat from the fruit. That's one choice, but I don't want to jump too far ahead. But I will say one thing before I finish with this point, and that is, Cain, as in Cain and Abel, Cain had a choice. Cain chose to let his brother, either let your brother live and look after your brother, or kill your brother and don't care about him. And of course he made the wrong choice. He made an uninformed choice. Now let's briefly skip forward later in the book of Bereishit to Joseph. Joseph was exactly the opposite. Joseph said, I want to go to my brothers. When he was lost, when he was wandering around, Et achai, he said, my brothers I seek. So he was dafka going after his brothers, to look after his brothers. But you see here, Cain made the wrong choice. He separated from his brother. That's one indication of choice. And it says there's a famous pasuk in this week's parsha, Lo tov le'adam liot levado, or words to that effect. I haven't got the pasuk in front of me. It is not good for man to be alone. Why would man be alone? What would be the problem of being alone? So you be alone, no problem. Create, we could have an army of men and they could all be alone. They could do very well. They'd make barbecues. Brilliant, fantastic. Nobody would tell them not to go buy all their boys' toys. They could do what they want, have no nagging wife. Brilliant. What's wrong with being alone? Imagine if a human being was a self-contained unit. It's not just you would talk to yourself, but you could reproduce by yourself, and you could argue with yourself, and then, because you were a self-contained unit, you would start to become deluded. Why would you become deluded? Because you would start to think that because you are self-contained, because all the reasoning and all the logic comes from you, you would start to think that you are a god with a small g. And then all the problems would begin, because there's no second opinion. There's only you. Nobody to bounce ideas off. And that spells danger. So Hashem, in his infinite wisdom, created a woman so we could bounce ideas off. So if we want to have those boys' toys, if we want to have a barbecue every night or get a takeaway every night, we've got the wife to tell us, no, that's not correct. And if you want to spend time and, rather waste time, we have a wife to tell us, you shouldn't waste time. You should be productive. So this is how we're completed. If we're self-contained, it's a recipe for disaster. So Baruch Hashem for women, and women should say Baruch Hashem for men. Now, before Hashem created Eve from Adam, because they were fused back to back, and Hashem separated them. Before Hashem did that, Hashem lined up all the animals that Hashem had created and said to Adam, look at all of them. I want you to name them. You see this creature over here? What do you think he is? Adam said, oh, this is a horse. Very good. Horse. Now, what's this? Well, this is a cow. A cow, very good. Of course, this was Lashon HaKodesh. He would say a par, he would say a keves, he would say an arod, he would say a tarnagol, or whatever the animal was, he would name the animal in Lashon HaKodesh, in the holy tongue. Because the holy tongue is not called the holy tongue for nothing. It is the essence of the thing that we're talking about. Shamayim, for example, is Sham Mayim. There is water. And there's so many examples. So Adam HaRishon saw with his Ruach HaKodesh, he could see the essence of the creature that had passed before him, and he named those creatures. And he went through the whole list. After all this, what happens? Sounds like a very sad film. Now Adam is seeing, there's a cow and a female cow. There's a dog and a female dog. There's male horse, and a female, the same thing, man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. He names all the creatures, then he says to Hashem, yeah, Hashem, haven't you forgotten something? I haven't got a partner. Oh, you haven't got a partner? Well, why didn't you say so? No problem. Let's create Eve. Let's take a big hunk out of you, and that'll be the woman. And then everyone will be happy. It wasn't quite like that. You can ask the question, why go through this whole rigmarole? Why did Hashem have to go and show the whole of creation, all the animals, and then create Eve? Why not just create Eve, and then they could both name the animals? They could have done it in half the time. Why put Adam through this agony, and then Adam, it's like watching a sad movie, and poor Adam is sitting there going, oy vey, I'm so sad, I got nobody, no partner. No. That's not what it was at all. I heard a nice explanation for this. Again, I'd never heard this before. The reason why Hashem made Adam name all these animals and passed all these animals, male and female, before him, because he wanted Adam to realize that he was missing something. It will be all too easy to give him his wife from the beginning. And then that will be just the normal course of events. You create a plant, you create a human. But that's not what it was like. Hashem wanted to show, hey, you want a life partner? You think it's easy? You think you're going to just get a wife like somebody goes out and buys a car? Or somebody goes out and buys a piece of chicken? Goes, pays money, takes it home, eats it and finished? Not that you want to eat your wife. But it's not so simple. It's not a transaction. A life partner is not a transaction. A life partner is there to be appreciated. So you have to appreciate her, or she should appreciate him. And also you have to appreciate God. Because you would not have got that life partner were it not for God. So there are two points here. One, a person has to, it's not like a conveyor belt. This is not like a, what do you call it, what's it called, J-date. You come, you click the button and your wife is there waiting for you. No. You need to appreciate what you're getting. It's not conveyor belt. So when your wife comes, you appreciate your spouse and you keep that appreciation. But you also appreciate Hashem. Because if it wasn't for Hashem, you would still be looking and you wouldn't be complete. So a person should always appreciate Hashem and say, and have a karat tov to Hashem. You have to have a karat. This is, again, what we're going to see, another thread we're going to see throughout the whole of the Torah. It's hakarat tov, it's gratitude. Person must never take anything for granted. It's too easy to take a back seat and not to appreciate. It's our job to appreciate. And if we look, we will find what to appreciate, and we can gain appreciation and bring Hashem into our lives. Now, again, another thing, I'm going to give you unusual things which I've never heard before. What happened when Eve ate the fruit? Whatever it was. It was a grape, it could have been a wheat, it could have been an etrog, whatever it was. There are different opinions. She gave her husband to eat from this fruit. She made it into mitz tapuzim, whatever, not mitz tapuzim, mitz anavim, or mitz etrogim, whatever it was. She gave him the pulp, the fruit, the juice, and he drank it. And then, when Hashem pulled them up about it, what did Adam say? It's the woman who you gave to be with me. This is where we get the term passing the buck. Adam said, don't look at me. This was not my idea. I just went along with it. One opinion says that she screamed and she screamed and she screamed at him until he couldn't take it anymore and he drank the juice. She made it so difficult for him he couldn't say no. But I had another way of looking at it in a totally different way. Based on what we just said now, that a wife is there to complete you and is there to be appreciated. Analyze the phrase, the woman who you gave to be with me. When you gave her to be with me, she's supposed to be my Ezer Kenegdo. She's supposed to be my helpmate opposite me. She was just being a good wife. She wouldn't just take the fruit, eat the fruit, and that's it. She served me as well. She was a good wife. So she came and she served me. That's the idea behind the woman who you gave to be with me. She was doing a chesed. It's a totally different way of looking at it. Instead of apportioning the blame on Adam, he was just, in a way, he was defending his wife. And she was just being a good wife and she was sharing with her husband. And you see further evidence of that because what did Eve do when she ate from this fruit? She brought death to the world. So you would think when Adam was naming, because she was named only after this incident, what would Adam name her? Would name her Mavet, death. Mrs. Death. Yeah? Adam and Mrs. Death. He didn't name her Mrs. Death because she brought death to the world. He called her Chava. What does Chava mean? Chava comes from Chai, from life, because she was Ein Kol Chai. Despite the fact that she brought death to the world, Adam gave her a name that drew out the positive. He said to her, your name is Chava, your name is life. Oh, the lesson is obvious. It's all too easy to pick out the negative. It's staring you in the face. She brought death. But that was not good enough for Adam. Adam wanted to pick out the positive. So he called her Chava, which means the mother of all humankind, which is a tremendous way of looking. So the same thing, according to his opinion, he judged her favorably. Now, moving on to the Kinderlach. Who were the Kinderlach? Cain and Abel. They were the first ones. Now, Cain and Abel didn't get on too well, especially Cain. Cain he was a bit of a troubled child, and he had a few issues, and unfortunately Hevel bore the brunt of it. Now, I'm going to mention a point. I did mention this before once, but I don't think it can be mentioned often enough. I'm going to give you a source now. Let's go to Perek Daled. Alex is happy because he gets to look in the Chumash. Pasuk Chet. Now, Vayomer. Now, this. Let's set the scene. Cain and Abel were in the field. Cain had it in for his brother Abel, and he wanted to knock him off, which is exactly what happened. So, Vayomer Cain el Hevel. Cain said to Abel, Achiv, his brother, Vahi biyotam basale, and it was when they were in the field. Vayakum Cain el Hevel. Cain rose up against Abel, Achiv, his brother, Varogehu, and he killed him. Very weird, very questionable pasuk when it comes to the flow of the pasuk, because it just doesn't make sense. Cain said to Abel, his brother, and it was when they were in the field, hang on a minute, Cain said something to Abel, but the pasuk doesn't tell us what it is. I'll read it in English. Cain spoke with his brother Abel, and it happened when they were in the field that Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. What did he say to his brother? The Torah doesn't tell us. What is this, like some sort of hint or something? So Rabbi Zev Lev gives a fascinating answer to this. The conversation involves, says the Ibn Ezra, that Cain repeated a Musa shmooze that he heard from none other than God, because Cain was downcast. Cain was a depressed character. Cain's offering was not accepted. And instead of looking at it with positive reinforcement and saying, okay, I made a boo-boo, where do we go from here? Let's try and make things better. Let's go for some sort of managerial shake-up. We'll look at the offerings department, maybe, fire a few people, hire a few people, and you know what? Once we get it right, then we'll be on top of it, and then the production line will go and all that. Of course, I'm exaggerating, right? Basically, all Cain had to do was make the best of it. Say, okay, that's not good. Let's find something good. But he got depressed. His offering to God was not accepted, and he had a hard time dealing with that. So God spoke to him. He got a shear from the Ribbono Shel Olam. And it was a very powerful shear, as you can imagine. It was the most powerful shear. So what was this conversation between Cain and his brother Hevel? Cain was repeating the shear that he heard from God. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay, pick yourself up, etc., etc., etc. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Why did Cain repeat this shear to his brother Hevel? Says Rabbi Leff, because Cain was deeply affected by this conversation that he had with God, by this shiur, this shmooze that he had from God. And he was so affected by it, but he made a reasoning. He said, wow, this is incredible. Such chizuk, such musar, such hashkafa, it's incredible. But it's not meant for me. God couldn't have been talking about me. God must mean my brother. Because I'm not the bad guy. I'm the good guy in this story. It's my brother who needs to hear this shir and this musar. So he told it to his brother. Because as far as he was concerned, he was happy as anything. He didn't need any rebuke. He didn't need any chizuk. This is not my problem. This is Abel's problem. So he repeated the shir to his brother. And what came out of that? The fact is that because Cain didn't apply that musar to himself, he cut himself out of the picture and he did not do teshuvah. He didn't take the positive lead. He applied the whole thing and he deflected it. Now that is bad. And that set a very bad precedent. Because now Cain was blameless. And he was the real protagonist, the good guy. So when he killed Abel, it was like he was doing a mitzvah. Because I don't have any blame. He's the one who had the shear. I repeated it to him. He took no notice of it. And he deserved to die. Am I my brother's keeper? No. He chose not to listen to the musar. And I heard it from God. And I told my brother. He didn't do anything about it. So he deserves what he gets. That is a terrible midah. It's a terrible characteristic. As opposed to what we should do. Because when we hear musar, it doesn't matter if it's directed at us. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a shir and somebody's directing it, or you're just listening abstractly, or you're overhearing somebody's conversation. One must always say that I'm hearing this for a reason. This musar, this lesson has come into my life for a reason. I'm hearing this for a reason. The fact that anyone listening to this shir right now is listening to me saying this is because they have to hear it. The fact that I'm saying this and I'm hearing my own words is because I have to hear it as well. And if you ignore that, you're missing the point. And you're no better than Cain rather. You're no better than Cain in this respect. Of course, you're not a murderer, but you're missing the point. A person experiences things, hears musar, and he must always take it and say, what does this mean to me? Why did so-and-so die in my generation? Why did I hear about that tragedy, about so-and-so suffering? It's because I'm hearing it for a purpose. It's happening in my community for a purpose. One must always take that and not say, oh, it's not because of me, and deflect it. Deflection is not the idea. So what was the Musa Shmuz that Hashem gave to Cain? Well, I'll read it to you. Let's look a few psukim earlier. Let's see. Halo im teitev se'ed. This is pasuk Zayin. Ve'im lo teitiv lapetach chatat rovetz. God is telling Cain, sin crouches at the door. Yeah? It's there. You don't need to make an effort to invite sin in. He's there. Or rather, he's there, but you can fight him. Because the next bit says, let's see if I can find it again. Ve'elecha teshukato v'ata timshal bo. Important words. The sin's desires towards you, he wants to get you. But you know what? You can conquer him. I didn't make a monster to come and eat you up and finished. The idea is not that God creates beings, humans in his world, for them to die senselessly. The idea is we have adversaries in this world, in the form of the Yetzer Hara and all that involves. And we do have a fighting chance. Every person has a fighting chance. There's no battle that is insurmountable. But we must make the choice. We need to make that choice. That's why the Torah begins with a beit, as we said originally. And I'm going to finish off with this story and I'm going to let you go. It's a story I read that was said by Rav Elia Lapian, the grandfather of the late Dayan Lopian, who his yortzeit is coming up in a few weeks' time. His first yortzeit. So Rav Elia Lapian tells a story. I do believe this is a true story. Happened in Lithuania. Probably, I would say, by estimation, around about the beginning of the 1900s. So in Lithuania, blood libels were commonplace. And in Eastern Europe and everywhere, there were blood libels. There were not extraordinary incidents. So it happens that at that time, there was a group of evildoers who wanted to make a blood libel against the Jews. What do? They had a child, they slaughtered this child, and they planted this dead child in the synagogue. And of course, there was, they found this child, and the Jewish people at the time were incriminated. They had no defense. This was found in a synagogue. And of course, the Jewish population there was up in arms. They didn't know what to do. But it was not a case of, the Rashaim, the evil people, could just run riot and slaughter the Jews wholesale. That they couldn't do. They had to have solid evidence. They had to find the perpetrator. So what did they do? In those days, what was the scientific tool that they used to find somebody who had either committed the murder or had perpetrated the planting of the dead body? That was up to the canine, the dog. So the authorities took a dog, a tracker dog. What would they do? They would, very much as they do it these days, the police force use dogs all the time to track drugs and to track the scent of a human being. They would give the dog the scent of the dead child, and they would send the dog out, and whoever the dog found, that would be guilty. Now, the Jewish people in those days were absolutely terrified. They thought, what if the dog comes and sniffs one of our people who was near there? Who knows what's going to be? And that would signal the end. They would have no let up, and it would be terrible. So of course the Jews went to shul, they prayed, or maybe they fasted even, to heal him, everything. And then it came the next day. They gathered in the town square, they got this tracker dog, and they gave the dog the scent of the dead child, Rahman al-Islam, and they sent the dog out. And the dog went, and the dog came and he sniffed by the leg of one of the Rishaim who had dafka planted the dead body there. And of course they found him, and it was a miracle, and they took the fellow, and I presume he confessed as well and gave away all his comrades, and they were all thrown into prison. And that was the end, and the Jews rejoiced. Yeah, and that was the end of the story. That was how Rav Eli Lapian told the story. But he added on his own twist. He said like this: what do you think happened to the dog when the dog died after 120 dog years and went to dog heaven? What was in store for that dog? What's he going to get? Like loads of Winalots and other dog food, and he's going to get he's going to be in a kennel with his own place where he can sleep, curl up in a ball, and any time he's got waitress dogs coming in serving him food all the time, and he can sleep when he wants, and he can walk when he wants. No, the dog dies and finished. That's it. The dog doesn't get any reward because the dog doesn't have any free choice. The dog doesn't choose to go and find the real murderer, the real Rasha. It's not like he made a conscious decision. But ironically, the dog saved the Jewish people. But he doesn't get a reward because he never chose to do that. So the reward does not come to him. Says Rav Eli Lapian. The same thing could be with a person. A person could flow through life, could be free-falling like driftwood. You go from one thing to another. Okay, it looks like you're doing a mitzvah here, it looks like you're doing a mitzvah here, but it's all driftwood. It's all free-fall. There's no choice there. So who's to say we're not better than that dog? Who's to say we're going to, we never made a choice to do this. So a person has to commit himself. He has to find those two paths and make sure he makes a conscious decision to choose the right path and not to be like free-falling through life, just bobbing along, like the song, bobbing along under the ocean or whatever it is. Person has to make that choice and make it a solid choice, and it should be the right choice, and he should stick to that choice. Bezrat Hashem, all of us in Klal Yisrael will make the right choices this coming year, and we will all choose life, and it will be life in this world with the Bayit Shlishi and Mashiach Tzidkenu. Skol Shalom, Rabot Tovot V'Nimot.